Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Jason S. Bradshaw. Jason is a global strategic advisor to C-suite executives and startups, a keynote speaker on customer and employee experience, digital transformation, and leading through crisis. He has led transformative change with some of the most recognizable brands like Target, Fairfax, and Volkswagen, delivering phenomenal customer-centric growth, including over 200% increase in lead generation, 36 million in e-commerce sales in year one, and decades of customer and employee metrics improvements. He is a best-selling author on customer and employee experience, recipient of over 40 industry awards, and voted one of 30 global gurus on customer service and experience. So let's not delay any further and jump right into this awesome conversation with Jason. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, Yannick. It's great to be with you today and great to be part of the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Now, Jason, even though we read your bio and, it really does sum up all you've done in your lifetime, we always like to hear from our guests in their own words a little bit about their journey, how they got to where they are today. And I have quite an idea because I've read about half of your book. It's all about CEX. So I do want to know a little bit, but maybe you could just share that summary for us so our guests can get a great understanding of who you are.
Sure. Well, actually, my journey started at the age of 14 when, like so many young teenagers, I wanted to buy stuff. And I could have gone and worked at a local store, or I could do something different. I went down the path of doing something different and started selling my own telecommunication and computer hardware and software. And it really came about because I had this undying curiosity of, this thing called business. My parents had side hustles. My grandparents had their own businesses. And I just thought, there's got to be a smarter way than just going to work at, the local supermarket and getting minimum wage. It was not the fast track to get the nice shiny gadgets that I wanted to buy. So it all started, at that first business. But at the age of 12, I can remember saying to Dad, can you buy me this business magazine? And he looked at me like I was some crazy kid, but he did anyway. When I was interviewed at 14 years of age, I said, I can't compete on price, but I can compete on the service that I deliver. Mm-hmm. And that has been the hallmark of my career. For over 20 years, I worked with some of the world's largest brands, helping them significantly improve the experiences that they deliver through caring about their customers. And, this is a journey, not a destination. So certainly over the 20 years, the way I talk about it, the things that I've done and the results that I've delivered have improved. But it all comes down to those very early days where I was curious about business, and at the same time of that, having that curiosity, I wasn't just reading about how to sell stuff, but I was reading people like Tom Peters and his book In Pursuit of Wow, and about how you can differentiate yourself in more ways than just through product and price.
Amazing. All right. Thank you for sharing, Jason. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I started reading your book. It's all about CEX. Amazing book, The Essential Guide to Customer and Employee Experience. And I just want you to maybe share one or two examples of, just experiences you've had either working in an organization where you saw that the employee experience is just as important as the customer experience, or even in a capacity where you played a leadership role and you saw that it really played an impactful part. Because, as you mentioned in the book, there are times when you said some senior leadership persons see customer experience as a feel-good type of thing, and they don't necessarily see the bottom line impact of it. And I mean, you gave quite a few examples of, if you take care of your people inside, of course, they'll take care of your external customers, and that will create loyalty and retention. But just give us maybe two examples that you've had, as I said, either as a leader or just working in an organization as an employee.
Sure. Well, I can remember starting a job with a telecommunications company as the national customer service manager of an enterprise team. And I didn't know it at the time, but sometime after starting, one of the people more senior than me said to me, "The reason we gave you the team that we gave you was because we figured it's been broken for so long. If you get it wrong, what's it matter? It's been broken for so long." And what I walked into was, I think, I would call it the departure lounge, because people were leaving the team, leaving the business just as fast as you could recruit them when I turned up. And you can imagine what that's like. You've got new people that are worried about getting through their trial period or their probation period. You've got new people that absolutely have not got the skills or the ingrained training around what they're meant to be doing. And then the only tenured people, or the majority of the tenured people within the team, are there because they're fearful that they can't get another job. And so you don't necessarily have the talent. You have what you have. And every metric, and they were serving corporate customers, every metric that there was failed. And wind forward just 6 months, and every metric was being achieved. We were no longer being referred to as the departure lounge, because we had some turnover when I first started, but that was intentional turnover as we rebuilt the team. And rebuilding the team was about really being clear with our team members about what success looked like, about providing them with regular coaching bites. So not expecting someone to know everything from day one, or to try and train them everything on day one, but consistently improve their skills. And then the third thing was bringing humanity into the team. So if someone made a mistake, not using that as a reason to chastise them or belittle them, but rather using that as an opportunity to help them learn and grow. Now, there is always a limit to that one. Someone can't make the same mistake every day for 50 days and there not be a consequence.
You'd hope not.
Right? But if you take a genuine approach that people turn up wanting to do a great job, and you enable them to do so, and when they have a misstep, you walk them through that, the results are phenomenal. And like I said, in under 6 months, it went from meeting no metrics to being the only team meeting all the metrics. And those metrics, importantly, weren't just organizational metrics. We were every month judged by corporate performance of our customers. So the customers that we were serving had contractual service levels that were different to each other, and we had to meet them all. And so I think that's a real testament to what can happen when you actually start caring about the employees. And of course, it's not just in contact centers where that makes sense. It matters everywhere. And equally, not caring about your employees can have the opposite effect of what I was just explaining. I worked for a company where there was a new senior leader joined the leadership team, and that individual believed in one thing: cost cutting. And if you had a conversation around, do we have the $2 biscuit or the $2.10 biscuit in the lunchroom, in the break room? Well, then the first response was, can we get the $1.90 biscuit, and we're going to limit the number of biscuits we put out each day because people can't have 2 biscuits. And when you have someone come in and disrupt a culture in that respect, what ends up happening is a whole lot of inefficiencies, because people spend their time talking and gossiping around how things have changed for the worse, and inevitably start looking for work elsewhere, as opposed to being focused on the mission of the company.
Agreed. All right. So the employee experience is just as important as the customer experience. Now, the world, I know you're in Australia. I guess you could share a little bit about how COVID has impacted customer experience in your part of the world. But are there some areas that you think organizations have had to maybe give a little bit more emphasis to, especially in light of this global pandemic? I know a lot of people have to be working from home. Have you seen any trends where people had to maybe change or shift in terms of their approach to employee experience and customer experience since the pandemic versus pre-pandemic? Like, have people had to exercise a little bit more empathy and compassion towards people, and is it a case where employees are less tolerant if organizations are not extending these types of behaviors to them, and does that impact the external customer? Like, how have you seen it playing out on your side of the world?
Well, across Australia and North America, where the majority of my clients are, the number one thing that I think the pandemic has impacted organizations is the level of trust that they have in their employees. And I mean that in a really great way. Think of the organizations that 13, 15 months ago would have never considered letting people work from home. And through necessity, they had to. And they had to also trust that their employees were going to do the right thing when they were working at home. And I feel that trust has been paid back 10 times by employees.
Right.
The real challenge now, as different parts of the world open up again, is will that trust be extended? Was it situational trust, or was it really the turning point that led to trusting? And we've certainly seen a lot in the media around different companies and how they're embracing or not embracing a flexible work environment. But definitely I see that on the main there is a greater willingness to have that flexibilities with employees, which ultimately leads to a better experience for customers. And that's because if an employee feels empowered and trusted to do the right thing, then they're going to do the right thing more times than not. The other thing that has occurred is, and you mentioned, I love the word empathy that you mentioned, is that to an extent, customers have become, certainly in the early parts of the pandemic, that they themselves have had more empathy towards who they were doing business with, because everyone was in this together. Nothing more like a common cause to bind people together, whether it be customers or employees. The real challenge, though, is what companies have done and learned through the pandemic. So, at the very beginning of the pandemic, you had empathy from customers because they were living the same pain that the people that were serving them was living them, regardless of socio-demographics, right? Everyone's lives got disrupted, some more than others, but everyone's life got disrupted. The real challenge, though, is that, we're 18 months, in some countries, we're 18 months into the pandemic, and there are companies still using the pandemic as an excuse for bad customer service. There's a telephone company that I won't name names, but the telephone company is a very large company, and when you contact them today, whether it be via telephone, by web form, via online chat, the very first thing that they say to you is that due to the pandemic, we're experiencing significant delays. Now, they have a large outsourced operation that, yes, 18 months ago was having some problems, but they've also had 18 months to find a solution to that problem. And organizations need to move beyond the pandemic as a reason for not delivering a great experience for customers. And the research is there to back that up. 30% of consumers will now leave a business after just one bad experience, and it's near for them to do so. There's companies that are doing things today that they just 2 years ago would have never thought they would be doing, but they're doing it because they have to survive, and because that becomes the customer's new expectations. Once you start doing home delivery because of the pandemic, as soon as your country opens up or your city opens up, that doesn't mean the customer just suddenly doesn't enjoy the benefits of home delivery, right? And so I think the real challenge is that we've had this massive injection of empathy up front on every side of the coin, but organizations are not taking the lead over during the pandemic to reinvent, to fix their broken things that were broken in the beginning, so that their customers don't have a reason to look elsewhere.
All right. Okay. So Those are really, really good things that you brought up, and I'm happy that you are able to show us where it is that customers have been placing an emphasis on, especially since the pandemic, as well as where organizations have been putting their emphasis on. Now, Jason, could you share with us maybe what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
So I'm going to say the Qualtrics learning network. Qualtrics is a large software company that provides research solutions in the experience management space.
Right.
And whether it's Qualtrics or someone else, what I'm saying here is, and the reason I say Qualtrics is because there is, almost every day, new case studies, new thought leadership, new information to help individuals in small businesses or in large enterprises grow their practice, their intentional practice on delivering great customer employee experiences. And so, I think the best online resource for any entrepreneur out there or leader is one like the Qualtrics Learning Network, where you can constantly get fed new thought leadership, new ways of doing things, and not because you have to change what you're doing, every week, but a healthy curiosity and openness to see what is class leading today will help inform your decisions and ensure that you continue to grow forward. And I think that's the biggest challenge that most companies have, especially small businesses have, is that they start with this really great ambition to be, better than the store down the road. And perhaps at first they are, but they fail to continue to evolve and innovate so that they stay competitive and mindful that today their experiences that they're delivering are being judged not based on the last time I had my car service or the last time I went to a bank. It's being judged on the best experience, my last best experience, regardless of the industry, right? So something like the Qualtrics website, where you get to exposure to the evolving nature of business globally, I think is really great.
All right. Okay, Jason, could you also share maybe one or two books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could have been a book that you read recently, or maybe a book that you read a very long time ago, but it still has had a great impact on you.
Look, I've already mentioned Tom Peters' In Pursuit of Wow. It was one of the very first business books I ever read. I think everything in that book still plays true today. Anything by Tom Peters will certainly get you thinking. But let's move to today. There's three books: Iconic by Scott McKain, Convenience Revolution by Shep Hyken, and Exactly What to Say by Phil M. Jones. I mentioned those three books because any of them will absolutely help you start to get clarity and start to move forward in creating a better experience for your customers and your employees. But here's the thing. It's not just, none of those books are about hugging your customers. It's about taking really strategic steps to improve the commercial viability of your business while also differentiating your business through the experiences that you create and deliver.
Amazing. All right. So we'll definitely have the books, the links to those books in the show notes of this episode. Now, Jason, we have a lot of listeners who are business owners and managers who sometimes feel, I know they definitely feel that they have great products and services, but sometimes they feel like they lack the constantly motivated human capital. So constantly motivated human people. If you were sitting across the table from one of these persons, what is the one piece of advice that you would give them to have a successful business?
So the first piece of advice that I would give is ask your employees, when was the last time they had experienced achievement in your business, and what's preventing them from having achievement more regularly? So employees, measure their experience, and their engagement with us is really impacted across three lenses. Did they have success or achievement in their day? Everyone wants to go home or end their working day by feeling that they actually were useful, that they achieved something, that it wasn't just the same old. They, of course, want things to not be handed to them on a silver platter, but they don't want things to be difficult for the sake of being difficult. And the third thing is that they want to feel a human connection with their leadership and with their business. So if you ask your team members, when was the last time you had achievement, and tell me why you aren't having achievement more often, you will start to unearth the real challenges in your business. And if you turn around and start taking action in small ways and big ways to remove those barriers to achievement, your employees will start to see that you genuinely care. They'll start experiencing more achievement because you're removing the roadblocks. And through that, you'll build engagement and loyalty and motivation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. Now, Jason, could you share with our audience what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? It could be something that you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
Yeah. The number one activity that I'm working on right now is finalizing my manuscript for my next book. So I have a new book coming out in Q1 2022, and this book has completely changed in direction at least 2 or 3 times as a result of the pandemic, and I'm really knuckling down to finish it off because this book will really help organizations and leaders in businesses of all size take their business to the next level and be really practical and filled with great case studies to help organizations in any industry move forward. And so I can't wait to have it finished, but I also can't wait for people to get it in their hands and, importantly, taking action as a result.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. So we're going to be looking out for all of that great content that you're going to be putting out for us. Now, Jason, our listeners would have listened to this episode and they are quite intrigued with your journey. They're quite intrigued with all of the great things that you could possibly add value for them. They want to follow you on your journey. They want to connect with you even more. Where can they find you online?
So the easiest way to find me is to Google Jason S. Bradshaw. So that's Jason S. Bradshaw. That's my handle on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and my website is jasonsbradshaw.com.
All right. So we'll have those as well. Now, before we wrap our interviews up, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote or saying? It kind of just helps to get you back on track or get you refocused.
The standard that you walk past is the standard that you accept. We can all get so wrapped up in the busyness of the day, of the crisis of the moment. But the moment we start walking past people in our organization or start letting ourselves slip in our standards, then we start to dilute the overall experience of our customers and our employees. So the standard that you walk past is the standard you accept. Let's lead by example and set the standard.
Wow, very powerful. All right. Okay, Jason, well, thank you so much for jumping on this podcast today with us to share some awesome nuggets about the importance of the relationship with the customer and employee experience. Share some of the experiences that you've had, why it is that those things are so important for the success of a business. And just also to look at how organizations can really look at, if they're not doing it already, how they can look at focusing on their employee experience and really trying to help their employees, as you mentioned, feel like they've accomplished something and that they've, gained some achievement or success in whatever they're doing, no matter how small it is. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Just want to remind our listeners, you can follow us on Facebook in our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community, and feel free to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.